this is a debate that I see on some of the Western North Carolina mountain bike forums and things like that about like canceling races and weather calls and things like that. And I think the the first thing to understand is that it is no small feat for any race organizer to cancel and reschedule a race. Like that is just not possible in a lot of contexts. Like if you look at the general racing calendar, we get it whenever we publish our events. Like here's the six races that we're doing, and somebody always like starts pinging us like, can you switch this date because that date is the same as this other race that we are targeting. It's impossible to set up a schedule that doesn't interfere with other races. Would you say that's a pretty accurate description?
Having tried for this season to do some deconfliction with other race organizers, it is pretty difficult. On our end, we have limited venues we can go. We have our kind of, standard ones, and we've tried some new things this year. All those other race organizers trying to find the same type of places essentially. And then, our spring schedule, we try to avoid Easter and Memorial Day, and then every other
Mother's
week
Day.
kind of, yeah, every other weekend. Well, hey, moms, we're about to go into Mother's Day this weekend. Like, give me the feedback. I've heard like mixed reviews on this. Some moms is like, let's race on Mother's Day. It's a great Mother's Day. So maybe we do that next season, race on Mother's Day. But yeah, you're right. It is hard to deconflict. There are so many other things out there, I guess. It's good. It's from some sense, a lot of other opportunities to go race your bike. But yeah, it's just we can't deconflict everything.
And
Very
then,
tough.
just switching over, like, we'll switch this date to this date. Like, that's just not really possible unless we built in a rain date with a rain venue. Like, I know one year we did a rain date at Mayodan that we sort of triggered because we had a cancellation. But because we're expanding the schedule of races, like, that's even kind of difficult now to do because there's just not enough time in the season to do it. So that's sort of the first thing. The second thing is, you know, we have to communicate with land managers, and sometimes the land managers like, no, like we don't want to have this race in these conditions. And so I think you want to kind of talk through that idea of here's how we do our weather call, because we had to cancel Fletcher, and Fletcher we had to cancel due to weather. And the natural question was, how come we can race at Mayodan, but we can't race at Fletcher? So let's kind of image our way through how that process goes.
Yeah, there were some differences between those two venues, and I think you hit the nail on the head with, the landowner slash trail boss gets a pretty big vote in that decision, and sometimes that's the same person. That's Mayodan, that's Caesar, town of Mayodan, owns venue, owns trail, and then in Fletcher, a little bit different. We had both the trail builder and the landowner on the line. But let me just start with Thursday, the Thursday prior to the weekend. That morning is when we host our weather call, and we do that for a couple of reasons. One, that's the last moment this staff gets everything going towards the weekend. We reserve the rental truck. Ben's going to grab the trailer, and we tell all the vendors, yeah, we're a go. And then I think for everyone else, the league, so to speak, is if you can cancel your lodging reservations, at least a little bit of time to do those things. So that's why we template Thursday. In addition to that, is the most accurate forecast we can get, given all those other logistical considerations. About 48 hours out gives us the best data to make a decision. So that's why Thursday morning is the time we do that, but we do look a little earlier in the week. Starting Monday usually is when I start paying attention to the forecast, and that's because there are a few weather conditions that we review on Thursday morning, and everyone here can find those in the NICA weather guide. One of the benefits of NICA being a longstanding organization, they have a lot of policy process and data for us to make informed decisions on. So the categories that typically come to play in the spring league we are, Sean, and I'll roll through each one is rain accumulation, heavy rain, and thunderstorms. I'll put a fourth in there, and we haven't had to deal with it too much so far this season. Heat is a consideration. Sometimes it might get a little too warm to safely conduct event, but we haven't had to deal with that. But that first one, rain accumulation, is why I start paying attention to the forecast on Monday, because rain accumulation is basically the assessment of trail and venue, how much rain can it take and still be usable. From a riding on the trail perspective, it just becomes a muddy mess if it's too much rain, or as is in the case of Fletcher, those fields we were going to park on become a sloppy mess and we're getting vehicles stuck. So we got to pay attention, like how much rain throughout the week. It's not just rain on the weekend, how much rain has accumulated throughout the week so we can assess trail conditions and venue conditions. So that's one criteria we'll look at. The other one that got us in a little trouble at Fletcher was thunderstorms. Storms shut us down. And what I mean by that is lightning within 10 miles, or, a storm that approaches, we have to evacuate the trails and we have to tell people to seek shelter. And that is typically your car or truck. We don't have our venues, everyone knows this, like no big buildings to go run and hide in. You got to get to your cars. And with Fletcher specifically, we were pretty certain we were going to have people off site at overflow parking. Just we had about 3 acres of field to work with, but because everyone was so excited about a Western venue, and we saw the Western teams like, come out and watch the race. Come, it's like, ooh boy, parking's going to be full. So just your evacuation time to get a kid off the trail, get in a shuttle, get her that it's a couple hours that would have shut us down. So Thursday, on the Fletcher Paul had landowner and trail boss. They're getting their perspectives on rain accumulation and what it looks like for the weekend. And then several members of this league staff. So we have the course setters. They've got to set up the race course. We have Brian Wood, lead course marshal, safety perspective, race operations, race director. Hey, what is the collective thought about a safe event for this weekend? And when we looked at all the data, because we had rain both days and chances of storm both days, and there was already some rain that week. And the landowner said, yeah, I was walking the fields after that rain and they were muddy, mushy, and the like. We decided there we couldn't even pull off like a half day decent event, given all those considerations. So unfortunately, we just had to make the decision for all those other reasons. Like, let's turn the moving train off and people can make other plans come Thursday. It just didn't look like we could pull something off that weekend.
Starting with that Monday, like you begin conversations with Elizabeth Garner, the meteorologist from WRAL TV, who kind of like advises us on weather conditions and is able to sort of interpret and give predictions of what's going on. And then Thursday, she's got a little bit clearer picture with that 48 hours and can really say, like, this is probably what's going to be happening. And then you kind of use that information to make these decisions. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely right. And thank you so much to Elizabeth for getting us some of the best data we can. I did call her Monday, same thing with landowner. Hey, what's it looking like? What are your thoughts early? And that gave us some time. We do our Monday night staff call that week prior to the race, and we start thinking about plan B. Hey, can we do this? Can we shorten the schedule? Can we do something else that gives us some time? So by Thursday, if we can conduct a half day, full, 1 day, whatever, we've got some planning that's going into that. So yeah, we do start typically Monday thinking about weather and the like.
And also, I think experience with a venue does come into play. Like we have a little bit better idea of how a venue operates and how a venue handles different things. But going into something completely new, like that's a heightened level of conservatism with this kind of weather call as well. Would you say that's fair?
So, certainly, and that's one of the Mayodan versus Fletcher distinctions. Right? Yeah, Mayodan, we've been there before, raced in the rain before. We know the trail conditions, and I would just say it is the hardest part of all this, Sean. I think is the risk decision. Like, assume venue owner and trail boss said, "Yeah, let's do it." It's still a risk decision. Like, and that was part of it where the staff thought the challenge of the Fletcher course was the climb, and we all know that because everyone heard my heavy breathing on the course preview video. In the wet and rain, it then became the downhill. Kids like the vision had just there
Yeah.
you go off that corner, and like you and I both wrote it. What's at the bottom of that corner? It's
It,
100 or plus drop.
Yeah.
foot drop. Preach.
Plunge. The word plunge comes to mind.
There you go. Yes. So yeah, it's always both of those. And again, I think that second part is always the hardest, very subjective, like a risk decision to do a race, even in rainy conditions.
The overall kind of picture to have is that one, race cancellations are not something we want to do, not an easy decision to make. And there's a lot of things involved. There's a lot of moving parts. And our races are very big ships, and very big ships are very difficult to change direction or stop. And so there's lots of little checkpoints along the way that we have to kind of meet to pull off an event. Is that a pretty fair synopsis?
It is, and back to a point you had made, there are a couple different ways we can handle this. We had decided this season not to have a dedicated rain date because we had 7 events. I mean, it's a pretty long season anyway, and you can kind of afford to drop a race, and that's exactly what we've done here. We went from a 4 of 5 to a best 3 of 4 series. Very fortunate we were able to pull off the first 4. Again, we can consider that for future seasons, building in a dedicated rain date. It's a possibility. We just decided to do that other model this season.
Absolutely.